Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Book Passage. Thank you for coming out and supporting your independent bookstore. We are so lucky that we get to host these fantastic events here at Book Passage and bring these wonderful authors. And we count on your support, so thank you. My name is Melissa Sestaro, and I have the honor of introducing George Hodgman, who has written a fantastic debut memoir. George is by no means a newcomer to the literary world. He is a seasoned and talented book and magazine editor who worked for years at Simon & Schuster as well as Vanity Fair. He has also published his work in numerous esteemed publications, including Entertainment Weekly and Harper's Bazaar. Bettyville is a remarkable story set in George's childhood home of Paris, Missouri, where he returns to care for his 91-year-old spirited mother, Betty. And I have to say, there is so much to love, the humor and the courage in this story, that you cannot help but fall in love with this dynamic mother and son duo. And really who are both struggling to understand their place in the world as it is. It is with great pleasure that we welcome George Hodgman to Book Passage.
Thanks for having me. There is a special little place in heaven for people who come to the readings of first writers. I don't know what brought you. I have no idea what motivated you to get into your little greasy vehicle. But it's really, it's very nice thing because I'd like to take your names and donate tiny sums to your charities. But when you publish a book, and the first week of when it's out is kind of a bipolar experience, and it all depends. It's like 1 minute something really good happens, and the next minute you get a call and it's like a major chain has decided that they really do. I'm not going to stock you ever. And or Janet Maslin has not only not going to review you, but she feels that you should be assassinated. I'm this town in Brooks called Paris, Missouri. It's small, and they don't order a lot of books, and they've all ordered mine. And they're starting to get them now, and they don't realize that they're not supposed to call me if it doesn't come. And it's sort of like I'm in San Francisco. Could y'all run over here with my book? And it's like, no, or they call and my book. I got my book, but it's waterlogged, and anything waterlogged. I don't understand that. And then there was a woman who called, and she was like, I was so excited when that Barnes and Noble truck reared up into my driveway. They brought me a garden flag, and I was, this is absolutely true, a garden flag. I don't know why. And then the other thing that can really kind of rock your world when you're doing this is that now everybody can review you on Amazon and book reads, and and I'm kind of, there's this woman named Susie Marcus in Mississippi.
Not that you remember her name.
When this is over, I'm going to find her and kill her. And she's like, I don't know even why I'm going to review this at all. It's full of danglers. It's full of danglers. I am a product of the American educational system. I have diagram sentences. I have edited books for longer than you know, and I don't know what a dangler is. I really don't. I think I was excited when I heard the word because it sounded kind of erotic. and I never quite learned it. But thank you all for coming. And I'm going to read you this little bit first. My mother is sitting in front of the mirror at the hairdresser's on the suburban outskirts of St. Louis, peering at her reflection as if she just cannot fathom what on earth became of the woman she used to see there. Someone is almost missing. She is almost missing. She senses it. We sense it. It chills us. But we are silent about what is happening. Maybe if we can change her hair, we can bring her back a little. Maybe if she can look in the mirror and see someone she remembers, she will feel a little more comfortable in her skin. It's the little things. That's what taking care of someone is to me, the little things that for a moment or two hook her back to life or bring a sliver of light to her eyes. If I were to make a list of suggestions for caretakers, it would be all about little things, little treats and surprises and special foods and presents on dark days. Come back home, I want to whisper into my mother's ears because she seems so far away all of a sudden. In the background, Katy Perry sings Teenage Dream. Helen, who does my mother's hair, picks up Betty's mood, says, "Don't worry, babe, we do you up. We're gonna take this shit to a new level." Betty is 92. She has that expression she gets sometimes now, a certain hard, unseeing stare she never had in the old days, before the losses, driving, the piano, the bridge club, the ladies who used to call, before the dementia and the struggle to remember the names and places in the books she reads, before the cancer and the dry skin from the radiation, when things were normal. My mother's state of mind inflicts its burdens on everything around us now. It colors our world completely. The winter has been gray, the shade of the low fog drifting in the Missouri river bottoms. The heat in the house is never right, but most often it is too hot. There are so many things that will forever summon up this era of our lives for me. The dry air pressing on my face in our quiet house. The moisturizer that is hell to administer as she cannot bear the pressure of my fingers on her face. The cinnamon rolls she demands every morning. The old sandals by her bed that she insists on wearing. Even today, on this winter day, in the parking lot, I half lifted her through patches of slush, and every time I picked her up, she screamed out. Now and again, there is still a little flash of smile or an amused look that signal the arrival of the woman who used to be here. But today her eyes are glassy, and I don't want to look at them because they make me feel like I don't know her anymore. More disturbing is the sense that she doesn't know her anymore. Most disturbing is the sense that the woman in the mirror is the last person in the world my mother wants to see. The sight of this woman can sometimes almost make her cry. I wonder what would happen if we dyed her hair some shade it has never been. Red, blue, like Katy Perry's. But that fantasy always leads to the next thought. What if she didn't recognize herself at all? I wonder if it would be like that sometime soon. I've been away from New York, living at home in our little Missouri town for more than 3 years now, because I do not want my mother to be alone with all the things she's feeling as her self drifts off. I don't want to put her in a place that will make her worse instead of better. I don't want her to be lonely. Dementia is not treatable, but one can scrub away at the edges a bit, lifting the depression and the terrible anxiety she carries. The anxiety of knowing she is drifting away on her little boat towards some far off, unnameable spot. Getting well is nothing I can imagine. I just hope that the cancer, lymphoma, held at bay by light radiation, and the dementia will come together in some civilized place where she can find peace. My goal is just a few happy hours for her every day. That is what I hang on to, the task of finding one space every day where we can find refuge from the inevitable. Little things, little comforts. I am always looking for new ones. The medicines lift her a little, but I always say that 2 Bloody Marys help her more than anything prescribed. There are the weekly viewings of Dirty Dancing. I've had the time of my life, I sing to her sometimes, sitting on the side of her bed. There are the peppermint patties left under her pillow and the CD from Phantom of the Opera that I play in the car on the way to one of the doctor's difficult appointments. These are the things that spell survival. On very special days, there are trips to the hairdresser. They lift her up a little, although they are epic journeys now, made difficult by the struggle to get her ready in the mornings, the battle to get her to the bathroom at the truck stop midway to the city. We take the dog along, and every few minutes she turns toward the back seat to ask him, "Well, what are you doing?" We live in a tiny town located 125 miles away from the St. Louis suburb, Frontenac, where she used to drive in and shop at Saks. We don't go to stores anymore, but she still enjoys looking at the fashionably dressed women at the hair salon. Watching her watch them in this place, located in this expensive neighborhood, I try not to see her longing. If, when assessing their lives, she starts to feel down, I make something up to cheer her. That woman with the diamond ring, you see her? She wanted to know where you got that sweater. She told me it was the prettiest sweater she's ever seen. Really? Betty says. Yes, I say. She says she wishes she had your coloring so she could wear a sweater like that. She also likes your bracelets. I paid good money for those bracelets, she says. Mostly, here at home, I have no one to talk to. I spend hours on Facebook chatting with the people whom Betty calls my imaginary friends. Sometimes I get angry. Sometimes when dealing with an older parent, it is possible to get a little testy. It is very guilt-inducing. He or she can't help it that they're driving you a little bit crazy. You don't want to be mad at the person you love, so you come up with little games to take the pressure off. For example, you can pretend you are parenting someone else's parent. For example, you can pretend your mother is, say, Cher. When she is peeved at breakfast because the eggs are scrambled, not fried, you can say, "This is the way you liked them in Vegas when you played the main room at Caesars." This tends to throw a rogue element into the interaction. In the period of confusion, she will usually eat the eggs. Later, if she'll not get up and answer the phone, you can say, "Mother, it's Aunt Margaret. The yucca is flowering in the canyons and she wants to borrow the Ducati." This tends to bring even an older woman to her feet, for whatever reason. Perhaps the lure of the Italian. In the afternoon, when she's mad because the mail is not on time, you can say, "Cher, Gene Simmons is delivering again today, and you know how he is." She will give you a freaky look. But there will be silence, and you will be grateful and can plan for the evening when you plan to offer her, if she is feeling low, the opportunity to sit on the piano and do the number about the gypsies. Betty is talking to Helen about one of the books she is reading, The Secret Confessions of Ava Gardner. It is the filthiest book I have ever read. Would you like to borrow it? I can bring it next time. I wonder if we will ever be here again. When Ava goes to bed with a man, she says they are in the feathers, Betty tells Helen. Who's she getting the feathers with? Frank Sinatra. He was so hateful. Already, my mother is a little more cheerful. Maybe it was the feel of Helen's fingers on her scalp, or the warm water of the shampoo, or just having someone different to talk to who isn't me or a doctor. When I return from the bathroom and the coffee place next door, she is under the dryer, her small head floating like a little planet under the black bonnet of the appliance. She smiles at me and slaps me on the arm as I pass, just a little piece of healthy mischief. She has always been obsessed with her appearance, but particularly her hair. The record of her styles and shades through the decades might be a cosmetology textbook, a history of American coiffure. So many days, so many Bettys, so many years, so many Bettys. Watching her sitting there, I wonder if she's thinking back on all the others, worrying about who the next one will be. I have to keep watch on this mood, this little patch of cheerfulness, to sustain it. I bend over to whisper, "Later, we will go to Baskin-Robbins for the lemon custard." You try to keep the boat in calm waters, whatever it takes. "You look fabulous," I tell her, as Helen combs her out and she studies the mirror closely, seeing for an instant a woman who seems a little bit more familiar. At the last bookstore, this man left me this note. He said, "Are you a member of the bear community?" The Pooh Bear community. It's like, how on earth do you get nipples like that? Only in San Francisco. You lug those around all day. Last night, my cousin Lucinda, who tries to appeal to my interests, invited my mother and me to a benefit for the Missouri Review. Throughout the dinner, I fretted, knowing there was a reading to come. Glancing now and then at Betty, I wished for brevity. I hoped that our entertainment would not be a poet. But no, a poet it was. Despite the weather, she was wearing a jacket of some sort of faux zebra, trimmed in leatherette with tassels on the buttons. Her name was Jude Nutter. "Where," my mother asked quite loudly, "did that jacket come from?" "Is it from Africa?" I cringed as Betty glared at me with an expression with which I am very familiar. It seems to suggest that I am personally responsible for every particle of bullshit loose in this world. What was her name? My mother asked loudly after the introduction. "Nutter," I said. "Jude Nutter." "What?" my mother asked, incredulous. "Jude Nutter. Her name is Jude Nutter." "Nutter?" my mother asked again, even more audibly than before. "N-U-T-T-E-R? Yes," I said again. "Nutter. N-U-T-T-E-R." My cousin looked slightly uncomfortable as Jude nodded at our table, sensing some disturbance. Betty smiled back, gave a bit of a wave, as if she had just been named the best actress of the year. I knew things were going to get worse when Jude confided that she'd grown up in a house on a lot adjacent to the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. Jude continued, telling us about her special kinship with insects, which she likes to feel on her body. This is sensual and pleasing for her. I waited, but Betty, intent on her brownie, made no remark. I began to breathe more regularly. Then Jude started to recite her first poem, a work that opened with the image of flies on the bloody eye of a dead lamb. Again, Betty shot me the look. It is always me. I am always responsible. How, Betty pondered loudly, did we get involved with this? She threw her half-consumed brownie down on the plate as if it were a horseshoe. Jude Nutter mourned the lamb. The second poem began. Jude Nutter read to us of finding the dentures of her deceased mother in a small container in the bathroom of her home. Soon there were Germans. Then the teeth were back. then the insects, then back to the teeth again, the haunting melancholy of her mother's gaping oral cavity. Finally, the poem built to a dramatic conclusion. Jude kissed the teeth and threw them into the river. She's gonna have a hard time topping that. You are very good. You're very good. You're gonna like, are you in the bear community? Little bears. Okay, could we have some questions? Or-
Tell us about how your mom is feeling about what's going on with you. Does she know you're on a book tour, and what did she say about it?
This whole thing is really, it's very mysterious for me to know how to handle this and what to do about this. And my mother, in her best days, was not a literary person, and I try to explain this book to her and tell her about it. I thought, well, I led with the money, because she was like, it would be her to sort of say like, oh, you've written a book and you spent all this time and you're not, you should have done something you could get money for. It would never occur to you that you get money for a book. You get money for being a lawyer, proctologist, whatever. And but she's not. You just can't. I don't know how to handle it. I try to. I want to try and work her in a happy way, but it's just. I'm hoping that the forces of nature will help me find a way to make it a happy occasion for her in some way.
So I'm wondering about your process in writing. Your mom's still alive, and at what point did you know you were going to write? How was the writing going? Was it happening in tandem with the caretaking, and how did you separate those two different roles of the writer observing and the son caring?
I didn't exactly, this book kind of happened, and I began to write these little scenes about what was going on with us, and it just came so organically in a way, and linked up to so many things in the past. And as an editor, as somebody who's been around books, I knew to be grateful for that, like the Given book, the one that you didn't have to like press too hard to get, and it felt like a gift, and I didn't exactly. My work as a caregiver, it's odd for me to take that word on for myself. But it wasn't separate, it was just, I knew when I had a scene, I knew when I had something I wanted to put in the book. And sometimes it was because I wanted to save it, because it was like a instamatic. Sometimes it was because it made me so sad I didn't know what else to do with it but take it down and get it out of me. Sometimes it was funny. Sometimes it was Jude Nutter. But the thing that I would say about this process is that I have spent my life trying too hard about everything, and I always had the idea of like you write a book and it's sort of like you get up at 4 a.m. and and turn on your lamp and drink your coffee and sit in utter pain over your table until like, 2 a.m. the next day. You don't move, you just work. And for me, this book has been about sort of letting go, letting it just sort of saying, okay, I'm this age, I'm this fat, I'm not, it's like I'm gonna just do the best I can. And I have this little window in the morning before my mother gets up, and so I had a very specific task every morning to start me off. Write this scene, or do a redraft of the scene, and then all day long, as I was doing other things, I was reporting my day if I was with my mother, or if I was out with the dog or walking or doing some sort of task. I was sort of solving problems in my head. So I just kind of go back and do a little, do a little here, do a little there. And, I didn't come up with War and Peace, but it got me to the, I can pay my rent. And,
Did you have others that helped you, or were you her sole caregiver? It's very difficult. I mean.
well, this book is at the beginning. It's really at the beginning.
Okay.
And it's after we hired this woman to help us, who's been a godsend, as they say. And however, she worked for us about a month when she first started, and then she had to do. People in Missouri are always having to get some sort of surgery, or they all it's like, they always have. My mother's caregiver is like, she can talk for like 45 minutes about whatever her daily ailment is, and she had to go get a surgery on her rotator cuff, and which, like, for the 9 days before, she basically walked us through in real time that what was going to happen. And anyway,
Not much help.
so I was alone this month, and that was, it was very important to the writing of this book that I have a discrete time. Now, one of the readers said, I don't know whether this book takes place in the span of 2 years or 20 years or whatever, and I'm like, it's a month. Thank you. But yeah, it's someone who is otherwise very encouraging. Sort of. And, but this month I was alone. The month of this, I was alone. And I was just learning. I was really just learning. And
She's lucky she had you to help her.
yeah, she
Really?
was.
Yeah.
She was lucky because, and I'm lucky that I had her. I mean, I'm lucky I had her for a mother, because, I always say that there are people I know who had like the official love, or their capital M mothers, but I like this old broad, I really, and I've never liked her more than I have, because she tries, she tries really, really hard to hang on to her, she makes all these lists, and she's constantly sort of chanting things that she is trying to remember, and I couldn't. I go places and they act like I'm sort of Dr. Joyce Brothers of elder care or something. And sort of like, do you keep the bedpan 6 inches from the on the bed, or and I'm like, I could only write. I could only write this. This is the quirky story by someone who didn't think they could. Who's an only child, a self-centered, New York-driven career queen, who never kept a cactus alive, never had a dog because he thought it would die, and dreaded this. I dreaded all my life. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we all dread the loss of our mothers, but I dreaded this time, and I didn't know whether I could do it. And this book is sort of like, you don't have to, I watched other people, and they understood insurance, and they knew how to cook, and they knew how to, and I don't know how to do very much like that. That's homey. And, but this is like for all the people who think they can. And that's. Hi. What's your name?
Andrea.
You look kind of familiar to me. Thought I knew. I don't.
What's Paris, Missouri like for you now? What changes have taken place there that, or have there been in? And do you see people that you knew in the past all the time?
What Paris, Missouri is like for me now is that, it's like all day long since this book has actually appeared as a physical object, I've had these it's like getting a tremor in a certain part of your body, like a sharp, like my 6th grade teacher is reading about me having sex. And they just come, and you just think about these things. And so Paris, Missouri right now is just fraught for me because they don't know if I'm gay, they don't know. There are drugs in this book. The drug is like Metamucil is a recreational drug. And so, but it's also, Paris is really, the people are really smart and shrewd, and they're also really nice. And I think we all live with stereotypes a lot about that area of the country. And, we forget that our side is busily making up lies about them, just like their side is busily making up lies about us. And we kind of, we think, we're living here in the truth, but these are very decent folks. And I can't believe I said folks. They've been really good to us, and there are a lot of people who are my friends, and I mourn the passing of the towns I grew up in. I love those towns, those little towns, and I really sort of. The only really, really bad thing about being there is that I just cannot bear the politics. And, you're looking at a dinner party and kind of glance at the coffee table and it's like, is that Ann Coulter looking at me? And, and you kind of, the hostess goes to the kitchen and you say, Ann, come on. You have an appointment in the garbage. So you kind of you find some way to amuse yourself. Hi. Hi.
Hi, are you?
Yeah.
Okay. It strikes me, I haven't read the book yet, it just looks wonderful, but it strikes me that it's not really a subject matter that's written about a lot.
What? That it's not?
The subject matter doesn't seem like it's something that's written about a lot.
It is written about.
Yeah, not a lot. Not really addressed very much. Just old age.
Well,
in
it's
general,
going to be,
and
honey,
just-
because you are going to have nothing but old people up your ass for the rest of your life.
well, especially just in terms of caring for an elderly person at home. My parents brought my grandmother from Hawaii and cared for her for 9 years here, and it just got more and more insane. Just
Yeah.
She had emphysema and dementia, and it just got zanier.
Well, throw me into the mix and
Why
you can
you're-
imagine what funny.
Just all kinds of strange artifacts started to, fill her room and, just, you have this like, full box of things that she'd like keep in her lap, like just, like all kinds of rosaries and
Get your rosaries off
the
my ovaries.
shocking pink
Oh.
just odd, odd little artifacts that we can't throw away. Still in this room that's sort of like I don't know, it's like a shrine to her. But yeah, I just thank you for addressing the subject
Thank you.
matter. And
We're not doing shrines yet, but
Yeah.
we may progress to that. Hi, Amy.
So we talked about Betty and you, and I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about how the dog Raj changed the family dynamic, because Raj has a major role in this book too.
Dogs are God. And Raj came and to get Betty to agree to take this animal, I had to really make up a past that was much worse than his really was. So, he was skinny and everything, and he was not adopted at the Humane Society, but he wasn't like, I told her he had been like beaten for 6 months in Africa. And so he came, and the thing about the dog is that, like with people like my mother with dementia, the best thing you can do is pull them out of their heads, because their head is a sad and scary place, and they are thinking about what's happening. It's like they're thinking about what's happening. It's not the what's happening that's as bad as the thinking about what's happening. And so if you can get them to read, even if they kind of read the same book 29 times, at least my mother. My mother's read Ava Gardner more than me and Ava, we are good friends. And, but the dog, she watches the dog. The dog goes, in her eyes, she watches. And it's like, where's the dog? Where's the dog? I was like, do you like the dog? No! I don't like the dog. And it's like, get him away from me, get him. Where's the dog? and the dog so often comes with us, and we go to the doctors or wherever, and so I can take the dog. And when she was in the hospital for a long time, the dog came with me every day, and I'd leave her hospital room and go every 2 hours and walk the dog, and she's like, and she's like, is the dog by himself? Is the dog by himself? And she can, she's nicer to the dog than she is to me. She's more able to imagine the problems of the dog than she is my problems. She cares that the dog is lonely. She cares, it's like, is the dog lonely? Is the dog going to be lonely? It's like, you, on the other hand, are my indentured child. You are my fat and middle-aged. Anyway, dog Raj just, and also like there's no antidepressant like a dog. You can't, I actually have the paperwork that you have to fill out to make your dog an emotional security dog, and they can have a little airline. You can get them on the air. They can sit in the chair next to you. And I'm thinking about doing it if I can find somebody in Missouri who's like, they're like crazy doctors there, and most people are just trying to get Xanax. I'm just like trying to get a security dog thing. Anyway, anybody else?
You mentioned your mom wasn't very literary, and I'm curious about your path into the work you do in the world of words and literature.
I think my path, these towns that I was from were very rich they were very oral. They were very, you know, it's like southernish, southern light, you know, and they were, and I was talking to my friend who is also from around there, and you know, there's certain ways of speaking, colorful ways of saying things that your ears latch onto when you're young, that you kind of like. And I think that once you kind of start playing with that in your head, it's like, it's the same thing as, you know, you're seeing as a photographer. You know, if you're a photographer or you're looking for your picture, and if you write, you're listening to the whatever idiosyncrasies delight you or explain something to you. And so I don't think you know, I read books, but I read my uncle's copy of, you know, like the Alice Chalmers dealer's manual. You know, they took me to the International Farm Equipment Exhibition, Toronto, Canada. So I think that, you know, it's like, it's not that you have to be literary, it's that you just have to develop your ear and eye and heart. Anybody?
Oh, I'd like to say something. I loved hearing you on Terry Gross. I just loved that interview. But I've enjoyed this even more than the interview.
Cool.
To hear you speak extemporaneously like this.
Thank you very much. She was very, I don't know why I got to go on Terry Gross. It's such a, you know, it was such a stroke of luck. I think someone died. And their body will never be found. I don't know why.
Well, that was part of what was wonderful about it for me, because we expect people that are known and already terribly important. You're very important.
Who the fuck is this?
I think we're going to hear a lot more about you.
Yeah. Yeah. My mother's worried about that. She was really nice. You know, I'll tell you something. You sit down, and the microphone, this is like, you know, it's like the George Lucas version of this microphone. It's really big. And I sort of kind of went like this, and kind of leaned over, and the chick says, "That's a $4,000 microphone!" I was like, I'm not gonna take it. I don't want a microphone. And then Terry Gross gets on, and you have to say repeat this little contract that she can use whatever you say, but she hadn't read the book. And so your publisher always teaches you, it's like, you know, get it back to the book. And so I was thinking, how do I get it back to the book? And then I couldn't remember what she said. And so there's strange spaces between me and Lady Miss Gross, and but she took a chance on me, and I'm grateful for her. She sent me to number 40 on Amazon.
Oh.
Anybody makes my numbers come up.
How often do you look at those numbers for?
About every 4 seconds. If I see somebody on the street who I know and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna buy the book," I'm like, "Wait till I get home." I want to see the numbers change. And, you know, and it's also a good way to check that they're really gonna do it. And be home in 4 minutes. What are you going to use? Barnes & Noble, Amazon, what are you going to do? And There you go.
Well, I think that what I like about the book is that I think that it speaks to a lot of us, because we have similar experience maybe that we don't know how to verbalize. You know what I mean? My father died at 93, his brother just died at 99 and a half. And I have a little bit of the same things, about going back home and seeing him deteriorating and seeing the town deteriorating and all these mixed emotions about my past and our present, and my perception when we were kids of who he was and who was now, And I think that is the book speaks, I think, to a lot of people, that until now we have going through all of that and we don't know how to get it out, And then you kind of got it out for all of us, for all this generation of people that goes through similar situations,
Absolutely.
I think that is very powerful, it gives us a little bit of peace, I think. To me, it gives me some closure
A little bit of peace.
to my story or to,
Yeah, it makes me really happy that you, who are obviously from a place that is not the place where I'm from, and it's like we're walking the same road, and I think that I'm just grateful that things have happened like they have, and I could do this.
I think that it helped you to write the book, but it helped all of us that you wrote the book.
And I thank you. And it would help me so much. And it would help me so much if you bought 10 copies. I could be even more help to you. I could mow. They're probably ready to get rid of me. Really, it's like I'm gonna take pictures, so I'll remember you that you came to my first thing.
Oh, this is your first one?
No, it's my first rock and roll tour. And I want to remember it. And if you try to get out of here without buying a book, I'll find you.
Yes, and we can sell you lots of copies at the